everybody, welcome to part 2 of Track by Track with Ringo Starr. Track by Track with Ringo Starr. So we're up to the second album. The first album was Please Please Me. This one is With the Beatles. With the Beatles. This album has some sentimental value. This was kind of, well, the Capitol version of this album, Meet the Beatles, was really the first album I ever bought with my own money, and it kind of had the same picture, even though it's not really this album. It's a combination of this album and the first album, and they came out with their kind of own track listing, Capitol Records, right, to combine. I Saw Her Standing There was on the Capitol Record version. Anyway, right now I'm only buying the track by track, only goes by the Parlophone edition of the Beatles albums, the way they recorded them. To be honest with you, Please Please Me as a first album, I think is the actual better album as far as songwriting is concerned. I don't think there's any song on this album that comes close to those rock hits of I Saw Her Standing There or She Loves You even, which are just great hits, which are classics of all time. To be honest with you, I think they were looking for that formula. They had a couple of hits on the first record. George Martin saw a couple of hits on the first record. They're looking for that formula. How can we do this all the time? How can we do this all the time? The assembly line. That's human nature. That's what they were doing. Plus the Beatles were doing a record like every 6 months, and they were touring. They were playing every day, right? Now the other side of this coin is they're playing better, right? They're just tighter. The production value is a little better, right? There's more money to spend. They're playing every day. Their playing is under a microscope. Ringo's playing is much more concise. The very first tune, It Won't Be Long, you can hear it. And we'll start right there with the very first tune, It Won't Be Long. You can hear he plays that really the way any session player worth his salt would play if they had walked in and done it. Just really the fills, he fills into the chorus, fills into the bridge, really nice, clean fills. None of those kind of like weirder or interesting fills that he did on the first album because he was much less experienced. So it's kind of good, but out of some of that weird stuff came some interesting things, right? So, It Won't Be Long, fine song, not a bad song, a good song. Ringo plays well on it. Like I said, for most of the album, he kind of uses that same beat that he uses in It Won't Be Long. He either plays this one, or this one. For most of the album, those are the two beats you hear. Different tempos, slight variations. Sometimes he puts 4 on the floor, but basically the same beat, right? But already, track 2, All I've Got to Do, now we see the evolution of Ringo. This is not one of those beats. In this song, Ringo's ability to evolve, to adapt, to create, to stand on the shoulders of the drummers that he liked, the music that he liked, shines. All I've Got to Do. So why do I use the word evolution? When I think of the word evolution, I think of improvisation and adaptation. I think of cavemen who realized they could hit things with a stone, and then that, through improvisation, they figured out they could use a long stone or a branch kind of in their head, and that was adaptation, right? So, All I've Got to Do. If we go back to the last video I did on this subject, it's Anna Go With Him from Arthur Alexander, where Ringo copies the beat that Arthur Alexander used, which was that stop time kind of snare hi-hat thing where the hi-hat only hits one beat in the bar. Very cool, but it wasn't his idea. That came from the black R&B that was happening in America. And then Ringo does All I've Got to Do, which is a variation of that, and Ringo makes it his own. So let's show a little bit of the beat he did last time, right here. And now the beat he does on this album. You can hear it. The evolution of that beat, and now that belongs to Ringo. This is a big moment in Ringo's career. He is now taking that stuff that he enjoys, taking that which made him want to be a drummer, and making it his own. All right, and the next tune, track number 3, All My Lovin', we hear that famous Ringo swing. He was a righty on a lefty kit. He was swinging the best way he knew how. It's a very open swing. And let me just play it for you. I'm going to show it to you. This became iconic for Ringo. This became a signature for Ringo, right? That Ringo swing. And in the bridge, I show the bridge in this little demonstration too. Those folks who say he didn't swing in the bridge, they're crazy. He was swinging the bridge too. Let's check it out. Yeah, I tried to do that Ringo, side-to-side swing best I could. All right, so those two songs, All I've Got to Do and All My Lovin', for Ringo, best tunes on the album. Best tunes on the album, most innovative, most innovative. Like I said, most of the rest of the album, he kind of plays one beat. Except for sort of this next tune, Don't Bother Me, first song that George Harrison writes. Cool tune, interesting, very different than the rest of the tunes. George Harrison is beginning to stretch his legs as a writer, trying to figure it out. But what I'm interested in this tune is the way they mixed it for the drums. You really hear that loud hi-hat, foot hi-hat on 2 and 4. Now I know that Ringo was a big fan of Cozy Cole. Big fan of Cozy Cole, and I'm going to put his picture and maybe a little excerpt of his playing right here. But Cozy was in that Gene Krupa family where a lot of the grooves he would like to play that hi-hat really loud on 2 and 4. Krupa did it, Cole did it, Max Roach did it, Art Blakey did it. This was a thing that a lot of the jazz guys did. That hi-hat loud on 2 and 4. And I don't know whether the Beatles just recorded the hi-hat like with a mic on it, or the way they positioned the microphones, maybe they changed it in the mix. I don't know, because back then they weren't really using, separate mics on everything. I don't know how it was done. You can hear the snare doing that, 2 and 4 thing, but very quietly compared to the hi-hat. unusual. Even through the bars of rest, that hi-hat continues to go. So this was, I think, Ringo sort of stretching his jazz chops. Next tune, Little Child, nice rocker. Again, Ringo playing that beat, bop, 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 right? Good fills, everything kind of like what you would expect him to do. Next tune, Till There Was You. He's playing bongos. This is a tune from the Music Man. You know, again, this is that, I always think of this, John Lennon saying this was granny music because my grandmother loved this song. So, you know, some bongos. Maybe you could say Ringo was stretching his legs as a bongo player doing percussion. To me, this is, I'm not that big of a fan of Little Child or Till There Was You. Not bad songs. Again, Ringo's blowing it down the middle. Then we get to Please Mr. Postman. Once again, he's still doing that beat. They kind of take this right from the Marvelettes version. They don't do too many changes, but once again, you can hear that strength in Ringo's playing. Much stronger than even Please Please Me on the first Beatles album. Just a very strong tune. John is doing those tunes he loves from the American Black R&B catalog, which he really liked a lot, and he's killing the vocals on it, just digging it, and Ringo's really playing his heart out. So good job to Ringo, but again, we're not seeing that innovation here. We're not seeing that innovation. Then we turn the album over, and we get some, roll over Beethoven. You know, the mix, it starts out one side, and they do that fake stereo. I don't know if they were tired when they did this. Maybe they just couldn't think of anything else to put on the album. All around, not that good of a job for anyone. They don't sound very together. They don't sound really good on this album. I'm sorry, I speak the truth on this channel. My least favorite rendition of anything they do on this album, okay? And then Hold Me Tight, which was kind of a throwaway tune. Paul wrote it. It was supposed to be a single, but it never became one. John didn't really like it. Paul ended up not really like it either. Not a very good tune all around. Again, Ringo does a fine job. He doesn't play that ba ba. He just does 2 and 4 here. Ba boom ba boom ba boom ba. So a little more poppy for the 60s, but again, there's nothing here that you go, oh wow, Ringo's really growing, like you hear on those other tracks I mentioned before. Now, the Smokey Robinson tune. You really got a hold on me. I tell you, this is where the Beatles shine on this album. They really do a good rendition of this Smokey tune. They follow it along, but they take it down a few clicks in tempo, and just John really lends his vocals to this, really does a good job in singing his heart out. Ringo pretty much plays it like whoever played it for Smokey, but the fills, I gotta admit, Ringo's fills are more interesting, right? He does some really interesting things over the 6/8, you know, kind of playing with a little bit, doing that Ringo staggered thing, ba-da, 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 ba-da. You know, very interesting stuff here. Some of my favorite playing that Ringo does on this album is right here. Even though there's nothing really like crazy, he's playing 6/8, okay? But the fills and the way he delivers it, you can tell Ringo's really having a good time.
The Beatles actually said in some of the interviews that they're always just trying to do a Smokey, essentially.
I was absolutely flabbergasted when they recorded my song, man, of course.
Now we get to I Want to Be Your Man. I'll tell you, anybody who says that Ringo doesn't have chops, man, oh 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 man. This is a hard song to play. This is a hard song to play. I'm not exactly sure. I'll post it somewhere up here. The metronome marking is up around 160, 170, something like that, I think. And Ringo was doing eighth notes almost all the way through. So you got to remember, Ringo was doing those eighth notes at 160 with his weak hand, his non-dominant hand. I love saying that word. You know, Marge is pretty hot. I never understood why they drew her so hot for Homer. Anyway. You know, I'll tell you, I've been lonely for so long, guys. Let's not even get into that. Let's not even get into that. Some girls in mid-date just disappear. I must be awful. I must just be awful. Anyway.
You know, I've been thinking. I cannot envision any circumstance in which I'll ever have the opportunity to have sex again. How's it gonna happen? I just don't see how it could occur.
I'm going to show you a hack on this tune that I do because I have to play this tune, and it's a difficult tune to play. It really is. It's not hard and, well, it's, 17 over 45. It's not like that. It's just the ability to play those eighth notes for 2.5 minutes nonstop. So I show you a little hack, and really I just take out the eighth note on the hi-hat where I'm hitting the snare. I just pull it out. Right? So it gives my hand each bar a little bit of respite. When I do that, it relaxes the groove a little more. Everything feels more relaxed, and I can do that groove forever and ever and ever and not bother me. But this is Ringo showing his chops. To be able to do this with his right hand, which was his weak hand, good job. Alright, 3 more tunes on the album, and if you ask me, not the strongest 3 tunes to go out on, especially after a song like I Want to Be Your Man, 195 beats a minute or something, and just kicking, man, when I play it live, I leave that eighth note out. When I don't, it's a test of physical endurance, man, on my left hand, and that's my strong hand. Anyway, we said enough about that tune. So the next tune is Devil in Her Heart. This is George Harrison sings this tune. It's another cover tune. There's a fill that brings it in, which is like the original, and then pretty much Ringo is playing that a variation of boom, bop, bop, bop. He's kind of going boom, bop, bop, boom, bop, bop, leaving out the 2, which is very common in those days. And again, Ringo does kind of variations of that on the first 2 albums. This song is the same 8 bars over and over. Not much there. Not one of my favorite tunes on the album. Not a second time. Again, not my favorite tune on the album, but there's something in here which you see Ringo start to do more and more of. There's a fill in this tune, right? Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now he doesn't like to do a lot of stuff around the kit because he was lefty playing a righty kit. He felt awkward, so he does a lot of more rhythmical stuff. But this is not that slow a tune, and he does those, those 3s in both hands. Bum 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 bum. Floor tom and snare, and it kind of gives the snare a bit more of a pitch. But more important than that, he does the same fill every time, so that fill becomes expected and part of the song. So that if I cover that song or I play with a band, I can't just do anything, I've got to do that fill. So Ringo now becomes part of the melody in his playing, something that he would begin to do a lot more of. So this is the evolution of Ringo. Finally, we have Money. I never like to talk bad about these guys, really, but I'd never cared for the song all in all. It's another cover tune. I don't think they play it that well. To be honest, even when I'm listening to the vinyl, I will have a tendency to pick up the needle when I get to that tune and not even bother finishing it necessarily. Not my favorite Beatle tune. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. This was track by track with Ringo on With the Beatles. The next one will be in about a month, 6 weeks, and we're going to do Hard Day's Night. We're going to go all the way up to Abbey Road. All right. See you on the next one, guys.